What is up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the decidedly debonair Dr. Disaster. And failing upwards, or sideways, or really any other direction that isn't down is a sign of an extremely unhealthy environment, because if you can't fail, if there are no consequences, then what incentive do you have to change anything?
Ha ha! I am invincible! Invincible!
This is undoubtedly why so many prominent developers in the gaming industry have been so damned hostile toward their potential customers. It's why so many games have been made pushing woke political shit that nobody asked for. Look at Corinne Bush, the self-proclaimed queerosexual gendermancer and director of Dragon Age the Veilguard. That doofus stuffed that game chock full of LGBT talking points and propaganda to the point that it was virtually unplayable. Predictably, it flopped, and yet Corinne landed a top job at a Wizards of the Coast studio. These people know that virtually no matter what happens with their projects, they will be protected. So, when it comes to how well a game is received, this is their attitude.
I don't care!
Personally, that isn't what I'd want to see from my employees, but that is precisely the attitude that has been fostered by AAA gaming studios. And right here is another recent example. The director of Avowed has left Obsidian and has taken a job working for the Netflix gaming studio. Here is some previously unreleased footage of her coming to the decision to leave Obsidian. Yeah, Obsidian really took it in the tailpipe with Avowed. That game flopped in a big way, though game journalists and Obsidian ass-kissers tried desperately to spin this into a big success. As you may remember, the team for Avowed was extremely combative. The employees publicly attacked Elon Musk and anyone who was against adding a pronoun system to their game. They pretended that the game was a big success, even promising DLC because it was supposedly so big. But now, here we are, 3 months after the game's release, and the director of the game is going bye-bye. I imagine that behind closed doors, after seeing the numbers for Avowed, Obsidian looked at the director of the game and said,
"Be gone from me now. Be gone from me. The transaction is complete.
Be gone!
Alright, me hearties, make sure you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet, and also, don't forget to follow me over on X, where I keep a list of games lousy with wokeness pinned to the account at all times for your reference. My handle on that platform is Dr. Disaster 1. But alright, let's take a look at this Avowed director moving on to a new job. This article here from PC Gamer gives us the details. It says, after nearly 12 years at Obsidian Entertainment, Avowed game director Carrie Patel has left the studio to take on a similar position at Night School, the Netflix-owned developer of the Oxenfree games. Patel announced her departure and new role in a very brief message posted on LinkedIn via Insider Gaming. I'm happy to share that I'm starting a new position as game director at Night School, a Netflix game studio. So, after 12 years with this company, she just up and leaves a few months after the release of Avowed. Sounds an awful lot to me like this is a consequence for her failure, though she won't view it as a negative consequence because the paychecks are just going to keep rolling in. We don't know if they pushed her out or if she just left, but either way, this should have been a negative consequence. Leaving a job that you worked hard at for 12 years, presumably you worked hard anyhow, based on the work that we've seen from the last 12 years, I would posit that it wasn't very good work, but maybe it was at least hard work. Anyhow, Avowed was a failure, and for anyone who doesn't want to believe that Avowed constituted a failure, let's look again at the numbers on Steam. They failed to hit even 20,000 concurrent players on that platform. Over on VG Analytics, they are estimating that in the 3 months and some change that the game has been out, they have sold 285,000 copies on the platform. Meanwhile, Doom: The Dark Ages is being referred to as a minor flop, but it had over 30,000 concurrent players at its peak on Steam, and VG Analytics estimates that Doom, which has only been out for about a week now, but they estimate that the game has sold 451,000 copies on the platform already, going on twice the amount of copies sold in a fraction of the time. Now, a lot of people out there will point out that actually these games were on Game Pass on day one, and those games, the games that are on Game Pass day one, those are never successful. So that is why Avowed didn't sell. So actually, somehow, that makes it a success? But in truth, that narrative has been busted many times. Starfield, Stalker 2, Claire Obscure, Expedition 33, all of those were day one Game Pass titles, and all of those sold multiple millions of copies. It turns out that if you make a great game, or at least a game that is from a studio that's well known in the case of Starfield, but if you make something that people want to buy, then you don't have to worry, people will buy it. Hell, even Doom is probably over 1 million copies sold already. They've only announced their player count of over 3 million in a week, which is a chicken shit move made by companies that are embarrassed by the sales numbers of their games. But if you add the PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam numbers together for Doom, I'll bet that game is at least close to 1 million copies sold. But Avowed had to hide behind the player count statistic as well. As you can see here, it was only released on Xbox and PC, and I'll bet that the Xbox numbers are even lower than the 285,000 copies purchased on Steam. I'll bet that after 3 months, they've barely broken 500,000 copies sold. They might not even have done it. The point is, the game is a flop, which is why the director is moving on after 12 years. Whether she decided to quit or whether Obsidian pushed her out, either way, she's moving on. They promised DLC for Avowed, acting like the game was such a big deal that it was going to need a roadmap to show off what they were going to do with it in the future. Well, clearly that ain't happening now, not with the director gone. She chose the weird-looking aesthetic of the game. She built the team that pissed off gamers by getting all political and arguing with people. That was her doing, even if she wasn't the one who literally typed the social media posts that set people off. The buck stops with her, and now that the dust has settled and the posturing didn't help them sell copies of the game, she's gone. But the consequences are blunted because she found work immediately, doing the same work she did before. They call this failing sideways, and it is why the gaming industry is in such a sorry state. The executives and bigwig directors at these companies who keep greenlighting dog shit like Avowed are never hit with real consequences. They reportedly dropped around $100 million at Obsidian on the budget for Avowed, meaning that at the game's price of $70 per copy, Obsidian needed to sell about 2 million copies to break even. They've sold 500,000 copies if they're lucky. Now, certainly, they do get paid for having their game on Game Pass, and we don't know how much that is, but it definitely isn't the roughly $75 million they would need to make up for the shortfall between what they've made and what they spent on the game. Game Pass would not profit at all if that was what they paid for each game. So, what we have is a game in Avowed that failed miserably. And what is the lesson that the rest of the developers in the industry learned? that if you fail like that, and if you're a big enough fish in the pond, so to speak, then you'll get to keep on working like nothing happened. Of course, the people at the bottom are seeing consequences in the industry. Roughly 11% of developers lost their jobs in the last year, but gaming is in a weird place right now. Anyhow, I'm gonna leave it there. Drop your scorn for Obsidian and this director who failed sideways into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.